find out what really motivated your decision to run for the African Development Bank president, and what unique qualities do you bring to the role?
So over the last 23 years that I've been in development, I've seen countries develop, I've seen countries fail to reach the level of development they need. In the last 5 years, I've been privileged to operate at the highest level of development, supporting 2 World Bank presidents, running an IDA replenishment cycle, and currently now as Vice President of the World Bank Group Strategy and Budget process. With that vantage point, it's very clear to me that Africa is being left behind, not because of a lack of goodwill or a lack of intention or good intent from politicians across the continent, but simply because the rate of growth is not at a pace that's fast enough to make sure that we're creating enough jobs. That realization is what motivated me to put my name in the ring as a candidate for the African Development Bank. I believe I have the experience and the skills to make sure that the African Development Bank is that premier institution that is there for governments as they struggle with some complex challenges today. That the African Development Bank is that institution that is identifying and supporting sectors that will create enough jobs to catch up with the rest of the world in terms of rates of growth. I think it's unacceptable today that Africa is at the level of development it is. We have everything that we need on this continent, and I'm keen to be that catalyst to work with governments, work with the private sector, work with the young people I met today to make a difference in Africa.
So if you're given an opportunity to be president, how do you plan to strengthen the role in Africa's economic development?
So my goal is to make sure that the African Development Bank becomes the premier institution, the first phone number that a government calls because they are determined to grow their economy. This is an institution that is there for you when you're developing new policies that you want to implement. We have a strong knowledge base that helps governments very quickly identify which policies will work, which ones will not. This is an institution that is investing in the enabling environment for growth, whether it's in infrastructure, if it's in energy, if it's in agriculture, identifying those sectors where we can make a difference. Importantly, this is an institution that is significantly increasing the level of financing available in Africa. And this means strengthening our partnerships with both other multilateral institutions, the private sector, as well as domestically. And finally, this is an institution that is investing in young Africans so that we are ready for the future in education, in health, and in all of these other services. Now, it's true that the balance sheet of the African Development Bank won't allow us to do all these things at the same time. My goal is to partner. I want to make sure that we have a strategy for Africa in health that we can all subscribe to. The recent Energy Summit was an excellent example of the World Bank and the African Development Bank collaborating towards a common goal. I want to see 5 of those summits taking place on a regular basis. That's my goal. It can be done, it has been done, and we just need to be ambitious and really focus on getting results.
You've mentioned about the key sectors. I would really be interested to know how you will assist the bank to remain financially strong and continue to mobilize resources for infrastructure, most importantly for energy and industrialization projects.
Listen, I have been involved in the finances of the World Bank for the last 5 years, working in the Chief Financial Services Office, working as Director for IDA, and even now. One of the things that you can always do, in fact you're obliged to do, is to consistently look at your balance sheet and see ways in which you can optimize it through new financial instruments, to strengthen your relationship with rating agencies, to make sure that they understand the balance sheet, and when they don't, we have an honest conversation as to the levels of risk they associate with it. But that's not just a job for the institution, it's a job for governments as well. And we need to make sure that we are addressing any risks that we see as comprehensively and as aggressively as possible. This is not a job for one institution, it's a job for everyone. And we need to make clear that we are consistently focused on raising at the level of financing available. There are many examples of what can be done, and that again brings me to the very first question you raised. What motivates me for this particular role? It's that work. focusing on the plumbing, focusing on all of the boring stuff in terms of processes and systems.